Welcome back to Mystic Fix on 101.9 and 94.1 NewsTalkSTL. We just heard from Andy Nunberg and got an overview of Ayurveda and what it can do for you. Hello, Pierre Pradervand. Pierre, you are a fellow author with Inner Traditions. I am also an author. You've got several books. You've got The Gentle Art of Blessings, 365 Blessings to Heal Myself and the World, and your newest book coming up on sale July 18th of this year is The Gentle Art of Spiritual Discernment. That title really intrigued me, and I thought maybe we could first start by you explaining what spiritual discernment is.
An adaptation that I made from my French book. I published over 20 books in 12 languages and written many in French, including this one. And the original title in French was simply How to Find Your Spiritual Path. And for me, that was very, very clear.
Yeah.
And I think they have these people in advertising and all that. And my book, Gentle Art of Blessing, was by far the best known in the States. And so that I think they took on part of the title to make a sort of link. But most people don't know about my books. So still, that was their choice. So I accepted it.
Yes. Well, getting back to this new release, The Gentle Art of Spiritual Discernment, you say that there are three key questions that we ask ourselves, and that is, who am I deep down? What am I looking for in my spiritual quest? And what is the deep motivation of my search? Can you tell me how you came up with those three questions, and do you address them?
Let's say, I'm getting on to 86. I've had a long, exciting life. I've traveled to over 40 countries over 5 continents. I worked or lived or studied or traveled in all those countries. And I guess it's just the result of a certain wisdom from life. Life gives you a little wisdom, I hope, over the years, especially like me. You've been in the field of personal development and spirituality for many, many years. So that's my understanding that these are, I don't say the three basic questions, they don't exist, but three important issues that many people face in our culture. I say in our culture because most people are so enclosed in their culture, they cannot imagine that people think radically different in other cultures.
That's right. That's right. And well, let's talk about that. So can you give me some examples of how spirituality is radically different from Western culture?
Well, spirituality in itself, true spirituality, isn't attached to any culture. Let me share with you the most important mystical experience I had in my lifetime. I was coming back from Burkina Faso in West Africa, from the meeting of a large grassroots peasant organization, of which I was one of the founders. It was the largest group of its kind in the whole of Africa, with farmers really from the grassroots. There are not many big farmers in Africa, except in 1 or 2 countries. And the last day of our meetings, I contracted dysentery. Now, dysentery isn't serious if you don't take care of it, but if you let go of it, it can become quite serious. Now, at the time, I was following a spiritual path for healing, and I, for over 30 years, healed myself solely with spiritual means. And I had been before that a hypochondriac. I used to run to the doctor for the slightest little problem. And now for 30 years, and I was sometimes in very difficult situations. I remember in the heart of Africa, in a dark, deep forest. It was the middle of the night. I had these excruciating pains, abdominal pains. It could have been appendicitis, a peritonitis. I didn't know what. And I had to solve it spiritually, because there was no other means. So for 30 years, this method was extremely helpful. And so I was coming back from this meeting in Africa, and I was in the plane working with my affirmations or my spiritual texts and the other things that I usually did in such situations of needing healing. And I was sitting next to an unaccompanied little boy of about 9-10 years old with a little, notice board on his chest. And he was traveling alone, and the stewardess taking care of him was absolutely adorable. One would have thought his mother. She was always checking that he was okay. And one moment she came to speak to him with a special kindness. And suddenly I felt for this woman an incredible gratitude. And it became cosmic, and I had an out-of-body experience. I was in a space where there was only the infinity of love. Love was the only presence, the only power, the only law, the only substance, the only vision. There was absolutely nothing else but love. And the most wonderful thing, Pierre Pradervand had completely disappeared. I had no longer any conscious of existing as this little Swiss with his red and white passport and all that stuff. The only consciousness I had was that of love. And
Completely
suddenly I was
egoless.
Absolutely, totally. And
Yeah.
suddenly I was back in my seat. I don't know if it lasted 2 minutes or 20 minutes. I was out of time. And I felt something moving in my stomach area, and the dysentery was over. But the real healing was this vision of love as the ultimate substance, reality, law, presence of the universe. And it's a healing love. It's a healing love, a blessing love, a tender love of such tenderness and caring, even to the Trumps and Putins of this world.
So, Pierre, is this techniques such as Reiki, or is this
no? Okay. It's just I follow no specific spiritual path. I follow my inspiration. At the present moment, I would say I have one brief affirmation which summarizes all my spirituality, and I will say it to you now, because it might help others. Creator or infinite divine love, whichever you want to say, bless my eyes that I may see everything with love. Bless my mind that my every thought may stem from love. Bless my ears that I hear all with love and interpret all with love. Bless my mouth that every word I speak comes from love. Bless my heart that I may give and receive love. Bless my hands that everything I touch or do feels loved. And bless my feet that I may walk as a warrior of peace upon this earth. That's the summary of all my spirituality. I repeat it to myself during the day. And if I can really live that, I read less and less spiritual books, because if after 50 years I haven't, made some kind of good summary, I don't know if another 50 years reading will help me get much further.
My goodness, if we all prayed that every day, and I think that'll be part of my new practice, and kept that mindset
during the day,
right?
Not only once in the morning, all through the day,
right?
Every hour or every 2 hours.
What a different world we would have, even if just a portion of us did that, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that you're not embracing any specific practice, any specific
No,
religion? I know your book talks about how people more and more are moving away from organized religion, but yet
exactly.
still seeking a spiritual dimension.
But of course, I have let's say there's one American mystic. I receive a short text from his followers every day. He's called Joel Goldsmith. And he created a path of his own last century called the Infinite Way. And he's a pure non-dualist. I must add that I am a non-dualist. 98% of Christianity and most major religions are deeply dualistic. You have God and devil, good and bad, light and darkness, health and always everything goes by opposites, matter and spirit, of course. And in non-dualism, everything is the expression of this infinite life source, this infinite spring of love. Everything. I try and think of every person I meet as God smiling on the earth. I think of you as I look at your face now. It is so evident to me that you are love smiling on the earth.
I love that. I try. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Gosh, Pierre, I wish we could talk all day.
We can.
Just not for my program.
We can do it another time. We can do it anytime we want to.
I do hope I can stay connected with you, because from the moment I sent that first email to you and you wished me, I can't remember the exact words, but the blessings of the gentle rain or something like that. And I thought,
gentle rain of blessings.
That's right. And I said, this is a man I want to know.
And the famous statement, peace, strength, and joy, with which Gandhi ended all his letters. Peace, strength, and joy for me is a beautiful blessing to finish a letter.
Yes, yes. And Mahatma Gandhi was one of my spiritual heroes, to be sure.
He was my youth hero. My hero of my youth was Gandhi. No doubt about that.
Well, Pierre, how can listeners find you if they want to find you online?
Well, I have a website, gentleartofblessing.org. I also have another website. I've been befriending an African-American inmate from Texas who was on death row, who was condemned, as so many Afro-Americans, condemned to death for a crime we know he didn't commit. Wow. But he was given a drunken lawyer who didn't visit him before the trial, who prepared his plea on the basis of the police report condemning my friend. And we learned many years later that before every trial, he met with the district attorney and the judge, and they had a drink together. And the summum of everything, he fell asleep snoring during the trial because he had a big drink before coming, and nobody even wakened him up.
Goodness.
So my friend was condemned to death, and I heard of him by a lady in Zurich who was corresponding with him in 96. And I started corresponding with Roger, and his correspondence was so amazing. I published it in French in 2003, and the response was incredible. People started sending in money for a new trial. A lady in Zurich sent me $50,000 just from reading the book, Messages of Life from Death Row. Messages of Life from Death Row. I think you can only find it on internet now. And this man has become a giant, a spiritual giant. I received a few years ago a letter from the worst prison in Thailand, Bangkwang Central Prison. A few years ago, there was a 1-hour BBC film on internet on this terrible prison where inmates were like literally sardines sleeping next to each other. And this man was also, he says, condemned for something he didn't do. And he was at the bottom of hell and so depressed. And in the prison library, he found my book on Roger. Now, how did that book in French arrive in a prison in Thailand? Ask Providence. I say ask the first floor. And this book changed his life.
It's because love wrote it, right?
Exactly. And it was, so this book has had such an amazing impact and raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, because as you know, the law is very expensive in the United States. And so that's been a very important contact, and people can find, I have another website on my books, pierrepradervand.com.
Well, I am so grateful for your time, Pierre, and I will be reaching out again. I know it went by so fast. But thank you.
Please.
And I do hope you have a wonderful, I guess it's evening there, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
My door is wide open anytime.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. And I'm just sorry it had to go by so quickly.
So all the best to you. And
too.
as Gandhi would say, peace, strength, and joy, and an Pacific Ocean of blessings over you. Goodbye, my friend.
Thank you so much. Good day. Bye-bye.
If you want a chance at a free copy of this week's author's book, or if you'd like to be one of our free tarot card readings in the third segment, you can register for our giveaways on mysticfix.com. Coming up, everyone's favorite, tarot card readings by yours truly. You're listening to Mystic Fix on News Talk STL 1019 and 94.1.